Moving to Japan can feel like hitting reset, like you're turning to a clean page in a brand new chapter. But what if that chapter isn't what you expected? People ask me all the time if moving to Japan is the right choice for them. And the truth is, there's no universal answer. Everyone's situation is different. But after almost 8 years living here, I've seen a pattern. A lot of people arrive full of excitement and then leave disillusioned a couple of years later. So why does that happen? And more importantly, how can you avoid it? I want this video to help if you're considering moving to Japan, or if you've recently arrived and you're trying to make sense of what you're feeling. And I also want to be honest up front. I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning too. What I'm sharing is experience, observation, and lessons I've picked up the hard way. This isn't going to be a simple pros and cons list. It's not a basic culture shock breakdown. I want to go deeper into the things people always think about when they make a decision this big. The things that seem small at first, but end up shaping your entire experience. Because the reality is, Japan can be incredible and still be hard. A lot of it comes down to one question that sounds simple, but is more important than most people realize. Why are you moving? Not the polished answer you'd post online. The real reason. Are you running toward something, or are you running away from something? Because if your reason is heavily idealized, the impact can be brutal when reality shows up. Some of the people who struggle the most are the ones who built the strongest expectations over the longest time. The more you've imagined life here, the harder it hits when things are different. Not necessarily worse, just different. And I'm not saying you shouldn't move here if you've loved Japan since childhood, or visited 10 times, or feel a deep connection to the culture. Those are valid reasons. I'm saying, lower the fantasy, raise the flexibility. Some people also move because they want to escape problems back home, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But it's worth remembering that the fresh start feeling doesn't last forever. Eventually, life becomes life again, and the problems you tried to leave behind can catch up with you. I've had some of my hardest moments in Japan: loneliness, anxiety, uncertainty, feeling lost. Moving overseas didn't magically fix those things. It just highlighted them in a different environment. So thinking about your reason matters, not just having one, but understanding it. Because at some point, reality sets in. For some people, it happens immediately. For others, it creeps in slowly over months or years. But when that moment comes, the way you respond determines whether Japan becomes your home or just another stop. If this is the kind of honest, deeper conversation you've been looking for, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what's your real reason for wanting to move to Japan, and what are you most worried about? Now, let's talk about the next reality most people underestimate. Visiting Japan is not the same as living in Japan, no matter how many times you come here. You can love Japan as a tourist and struggle in Japan as a resident. Because tourists are in discovery mode, residents have to function. And that's where something kicks in that a lot of people feel, but can't explain. What I call the glass box effect. You're in Japan. You walk through Japan. You work in Japan. You pay bills in Japan. But you feel like there is a layer between you and the world around you. You, rewatching life from behind invisible glass. And that glass gets thicker when you don't speak Japanese. If I could go back and give myself one piece of advice, it would be this. Take Japanese seriously from day one. Not casually. Not I'll learn later. Seriously? Because living here without at least daily conversational Japanese can make everything harder every errand. Every appointment. Every small interaction. It goes beyond ordering food or asking for directions. Japanese is deeply embedded in culture. The way you speak changes depending on who you're talking to. The indirectness, the politeness levels, the unspoken rules, it's all connected. And if you can't understand the language, you'll struggle to understand the culture. Which means you'll struggle to truly participate in life here. I remember what it was like when I first arrived. I could barely introduce myself. Trying to live in a country where you can't read, can't communicate, and can't understand what's happening around you is exhausting. You start nodding even when you don't fully understand. You smile because everyone else is smiling. You pretend. And at first, it's survival. But if you stay in that mode for years, it becomes isolation. You miss conversations. You miss connection. You miss the feeling of being included. And over time, you can get used to missing out like it's normal. But it doesn't have to be. Because once you reach a point where you can go anywhere and handle things, doctor's visits, paperwork, conversations, daily life, you realize how much you were missing before. You stop feeling trapped behind the glass. And there's another layer to this. Language changes how you think. When you learn Japanese, you don't just learn words. You learn a different way of seeing and processing the world. And that changes the way you experience Japan. So if you're planning to live here, make Japanese your priority. Start early. Be consistent. Even a little bit every day is powerful. And one more thing. Language alone isn't enough if you stay in a bubble. Even with Japanese, you can still end up disconnected if you never interact, never build relationships, never step outside comfort. Which brings us to the next reality. Here's what most people don't plan for. The moment the novelty wears off. At the beginning, everything feels new. The streets, the convenience stores, the trains, the culture. Even the silence feels different. That newness can carry you for months. But one day you wake up, and Japan isn't an adventure anymore. It's your routine. And that's when the question hits. Now what? A lot of people plan the move: visa, flight, apartment, first job, but they don't plan the life after the move. They put all their energy into arriving, and forget that arriving is just the beginning. Because once you've achieved the dream, life finds its rhythm again. And if you don't have direction, you can drift. I've seen people come here to teach English or do temporary work, thinking it'll be 1 or 2 years. Then 5 years pass. 8 years, 10, and they realize they've been surviving, not building. And then when they want to leave, they feel stuck. Because they didn't develop a strong career path, they didn't build skills, they didn't save. They didn't grow in the way they hoped. And going back home becomes its own difficult transition. So you don't need a perfect master plan, but you do need a compass. Where do you want to be in 5 years? What are you building while you're here? If you want to change jobs eventually, start taking steps early: Japanese certifications, networking, learning the market. Don't wait until you're burned out. And this isn't just about work. It's also about life, community, friends, health, routine. If you don't build a life outside of work, even a successful move can feel empty. So ask yourself, what's your plan after the excitement fades? Because that's the moment that decides whether Japan becomes a chapter that grows you, or a chapter that quietly stalls you. Here's another truth people don't talk about. Most people move to Japan for one reason, but stay for another. And staying long-term always comes with trade-offs. Distance from family, missing events back home, feeling like you live between two worlds, building a new life, while something in the old life slowly fades. Around the 1 to 2 year mark, a lot of people hit a breaking point. The initial euphoria disappears, and then your focus shifts to the negatives. Strict rules, bureaucracy, work pressure, the difficulty of forming deep relationships, the constant feeling of being outside. Even if people are polite, you can still feel like you're being observed, like you'll never fully blend in. And that can become emotionally exhausting. But if you push through that phase, something changes. You start seeing Japan through a more realistic lens. Not with the honeymoon excitement, but with maturity. And that's when you can finally answer the real question: what will make you stay? For some people, the positives outweigh everything: safety, order, transit, healthcare access, cleanliness, stability. Those can feel like rare luxuries. For others, those positives aren't enough to replace community, belonging, family, and emotional closeness. Because here's the biggest point. It's not the place that determines your long-term happiness. It's the people. If you have community, Japan feels warmer. If you're isolated, Japan can feel cold even in summer. So if you're thinking about moving, don't just plan the logistics. Plan for relationships. Plan for connection. Plan for your mental health. Because the decision to stay isn't made on your best day. It's made on your hardest day. If you want to move to Japan and avoid the classic cycle of obsession gives disappointment, you need to prepare two things at the same time: your mindset and your system. Mindset is expectations and flexibility. System is routine, money, skills, and stability. Japan won't always be efficient. People won't always be patient. Bureaucracy won't always be smooth. Some rules will feel unreasonable. Some social dynamics will feel confusing. If you arrive believing Japan will be perfect, every problem will feel like betrayal. But if you arrive expecting reality, problems feel like life. And system matters because stress stacks. Culture shock plus money stress plus job. Stress plus language stress is what breaks people. So build a base. Understand your visa path. Learn the renewal process. Know what happens if you change jobs. Learn the basic costs. Budget for surprises. Don't rely on hope, and build habits, not fantasies. Fantasies collapse. Habits carry you. Daily Japanese study. Regular movement. Sunlight, community time. Skills growth. Simple routines that keep you grounded even when you feel lost. If you're already in Japan and the low phase is hitting you, don't assume you're weak. That phase is normal. Don't make life-changing decisions while emotionally overwhelmed. Adjust first. Then decide. Let's talk about the comfort trap, the expat bubble. It can save you in the beginning: friends who understand, places that feel familiar, a language you can breathe in. But if you stay inside the bubble too long, Japan becomes background noise instead of a life you're actually living. You can spend years here and never truly experience Japan because you never had to engage with it. Breaking out doesn't mean abandoning your culture or your expat friends. It means expanding your world. Join activities with locals, sports, classes, volunteer work, community events. Keep learning Japanese. Put yourself in situations where you have to grow. And yes, deep friendships in Japan can take longer. That doesn't mean rejection. It often means the relationship builds slowly through consistency. The bubble feels safe, but it also blocks opportunities. Better jobs, deeper connection, real belonging. Japan opens more doors when you can walk through them in Japanese. Loneliness in Japan is real and common. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. Because it's not always about having company, it's about being understood. Different communication styles, different emotional expression, different social rhythms, those can make you feel like you're always slightly out of sync. And Japan is a place where it's easy to isolate without realizing it. You can function without talking to anyone. You can order everything. You can stay inside. And slowly, your world shrinks. If you're feeling anxious, sad, or lost, don't poison yourself with "I should be happy because I'm in Japan." Moving is a form of grief, even when it's your dream. You're leaving behind a version of your life, your identity, your comfort. So don't ignore your mental state. Build support. Find community. Talk to someone. Keep routines that protect your mind. A lot of people leave Japan not because of the language or money, but because loneliness quietly wins. Here's the final reality. Moving to Japan isn't about whether Japan is good or bad. It's about whether Japan fits the life you want to build right now. Japan won't save you. But Japan can be an incredible chapter if you arrive prepared, flexible, and intentional. If you're thinking about moving, don't let it stay a fantasy. Start taking real steps. Japanese research, savings, a legal path, a plan with direction. If you're already here and you're in the rough phase, breathe. Adjust your routines. Rebuild connection. Give yourself time. Then decide calmly, not emotionally. And if one day you realize Japan isn't home, that isn't failure. It's clarity. Because the goal isn't to prove you can live in Japan. The goal is to build a life that feels real, stable, and meaningful wherever you are. If this helped, subscribe and comment your real reason for wanting to move to Japan, what you're most worried about.